weather threat across the country. Right now, 58 million Americans are on alert.
You probably think that you're prepared for the next blackout, flood, or supply chain collapse. Their garages are stacked with gear, their pantries filled with bulk food, and their basements packed with tanks and tools. But here's the truth. A shocking number of so-called survival essentials put you at greater risk when the crisis hits. When disaster strikes, it's not the size of your stockpile that matters. It's whether the tools you've chosen will actually work under pressure. Choose wrong, and you'll waste thousands of dollars on deadweight, dangerous traps and items that leave you more vulnerable than before. That's why today, we're exposing 7 survival items you must avoid at all costs, and revealing the 2 you should be stockpiling instead. If you want to cut through the hype and prepare smarter, this is where it starts. Number 7. Gasoline-powered generators. Every hardware store sells out of generators before major storms. Families invest $1,500 to $3,000 convinced they've purchased energy independence. What they've actually bought is a fuel-dependent device that becomes dead weight without constant gasoline supply and maintenance discipline most households never maintain. The core problem isn't the generator itself, it's the fuel system nobody plans correctly. Gasoline stored in jerry cans degrades within 3 to 6 months. The volatile compounds evaporate, leaving behind gummy residue that clogs fuel lines and carburetors. Without religious fuel rotation every 90 days and stabilizer treatments, your generator won't start when the power fails. James Patterson learned this in rural Oregon during the ice storm that knocked out power for 11 days. His generator sat for 14 months with treated fuel. When he pulled the starter cord, nothing happened. The carburetor had varnished internally despite stabilizer. With repair shops closed and hardware stores mobbed, his $2,000 generator became an expensive lawn ornament while his family shivered. But assume you maintain perfect fuel discipline. Now you're burning through gasoline at 1 gallon every 7 to 8 hours of runtime. A 14-day outage requires 42 gallons minimum for minimal operations. Storing that much fuel safely requires proper containers, ventilation, fire separation from living spaces, and rotation schedules that most families abandon within 6 months. The electrical reality. Safely connecting a generator to your home requires a transfer switch installation costing $800 to $2,000. Without it, you're running extension cords through cracked doors and windows, defeating your shelter's thermal envelope during the exact conditions that created your power need. You're burning fuel to heat the outdoors while slowly freezing inside. The generator isn't wrong. The fuel dependency and maintenance requirements make it impractical for anyone without mechanical skills and iron discipline. Which brings us to number 6. Large water storage tanks. Massive water storage tanks promise ultimate security. 55-gallon drums, 100-gallon agriculture tanks, even 500-gallon cisterns stacked in basements and garages. Families fill them once, check the box on their preparedness list, and never think about them again until crisis hits. Then they discover their emergency water supply has become a bacterial breeding ground. Static water stored in sealed containers begins degrading immediately. Without proper treatment, bacteria colonies establish within 72 hours. Biofilm develops on interior surfaces within 2 weeks. After 6 months, you're looking at water quality comparable to stagnant pond water, complete with algae growth, bacterial contamination, and dissolved plastic compounds leaching from container walls. The treatment protocols required to maintain stored water are extensive. You need 4 drops of unscented household bleach per gallon, or specific commercial water preservers dosed precisely. Containers must be opaque to prevent light-driven algae growth. Storage areas require consistent cool temperatures. And even with perfect treatment, stored water should be rotated every 6 months maximum. Linda Kowalski in Phoenix maintained 3 55-gallon drums for earthquake preparedness. When a contaminated water main forced a boil order, she opened her drums after 18 months of storage. The smell hit her immediately. Musty, organic, wrong. The water had a visible film on top and cloudy particulates throughout. Even boiling couldn't make her trust it. She poured out 165 gallons while her neighbors shared their limited supplies. The weight creates impossible logistics during evacuation scenarios. One 55-gallon drum weighs 460 pounds when full. You cannot move it without equipment. You cannot load it into vehicles. You've anchored your water supply to a fixed location, eliminating any flexibility when situations change rapidly. During California wildfires, families with large water tanks tanks had to abandon them completely during mandatory evacuations. Don't fall for the survival myths that waste money and create false security. Subscribe today and you'll always get real strategies, real gear advice, and practical preparedness that works. Number 5. Propane heaters for indoor emergency heating. Propane heaters dominate emergency heating discussions. They're portable, powerful, and widely available. Marketing materials show families gathered around glowing heaters during power outages, warm and comfortable. What those images don't show is the oxygen depletion and combustion byproduct buildup that makes indoor propane use increasingly dangerous as outages extend. Every propane heater consumes oxygen to sustain combustion. In sealed or poorly ventilated spaces, exactly the conditions you're creating to conserve heat during winter outages, oxygen levels drop while carbon monoxide and carbon dioxide levels rise. The oxygen deprivation happens gradually. You don't notice cognitive impairment beginning. You feel tired, develop headaches, make poor decisions, and attribute it all to crisis stress. The ventilation requirements make propane heaters nearly impossible to use safely during the conditions requiring them. Manufacturers specify crack-open windows and doors for continuous fresh air exchange. But you're running the heater because it's freezing outside. Opening windows defeats your heating efforts while still exposing you to combustion risks. You're burning fuel to heat the outdoors while gradually suffocating inside. Carbon monoxide detectors provide incomplete protection. They alarm at dangerous levels, but by then you've been breathing elevated CO concentrations for hours. Low-level CO exposure causes cumulative damage, headaches, nausea, confusion, and poor judgment. During extended outages, you're essentially giving your family mild carbon monoxide poisoning daily. The fuel consumption creates the same dependency trap as generators. A standard 20-pound propane tank runs a medium heater for roughly 24 hours of continuous use. A week-long winter outage requires 7 tanks minimum. Storing that much propane requires outdoor placement away from structures. You're making midnight trips to frozen exterior storage during blizzard conditions to fetch fuel cylinders in the dark. The cost per BTU makes propane heating expensive compared to proper insulation and passive heating strategies. You're burning money to compensate for poor shelter preparation, but propane heaters look brilliant compared to the next one. Number 4. Ham radio equipment. This represents the ultimate communications backup. When cell towers fail, internet dies, and phone lines go silent, amateur radio operators maintain contact across continents using nothing but radio waves and knowledge. Preppers spend $500 to $3,000 on ham equipment, convinced they've purchased communication security. Then crisis strikes, and they discover their expensive radio is useless without the skills they never developed. The licensing requirement isn't bureaucratic harassment, it's competency validation. Operating amateur radio requires understanding radio wave propagation, antenna theory, frequency selection, and FCC regulations. Without this foundation, you're button-mashing expensive equipment hoping something works. During Hurricane Michael, dozens of preppers with unlicensed ham gear tried transmitting distress calls on frequencies reserved for other services. They created interference that disrupted actual emergency communications and attracted FCC enforcement attention. Equipment complexity overwhelms untrained operators during high-stress scenarios. Modern ham transceivers feature hundreds of menu options, multiple operating modes, and frequency selections that change effectiveness based on time of day, season, solar activity, and distance to target stations. Reading the manual during a crisis while your family needs help is futile. You needed hundreds of hours of practice before the emergency began. The antenna systems matter more than the radio itself. A $3,000 transceiver connected to a poorly installed antenna performs worse than a $300 radio with proper antenna engineering. Effective antennas require height, clear space, proper grounding, and matching networks. Installing these systems correctly demands knowledge most people never acquire. Your basement-mounted radio with an attic wire antenna won't reach beyond your neighborhood. The learning curve is steep and unforgiving. Becoming a competent ham operator requires minimum 6 months of regular practice after licensing. Most preppers buy the gear, pass the test, then never touch the radio again until crisis forces them to, which brings us to number 3, single-source bulk food storage. Walk into any prepper's storage area and you'll see the same pattern. 50-pound bags of rice, 50-pound bags of beans, shelves of wheat berries, cases of oats. Thousands of pounds of bulk grains and legumes purchased because the cost per calorie mathematics look unbeatable. These families believe they've achieved food security. They've actually engineered malnutrition. Calories without micronutrients create a starvation of a different kind. Your body needs 27 essential vitamins and minerals you cannot synthesize internally. Rice and beans provide calories and macronutrients, but lack vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin D, B complex vitamins, and critical minerals like zinc and selenium. After 8 weeks of eating nothing but bulk staples, you develop scurvy, night blindness, immune suppression, and cognitive decline despite consuming adequate calories. The Leningrad siege medical records document this precisely. Residents with access to bulk grains survived longer than those with no food, but developed severe nutritional deficiency diseases that killed them months after calorie starvation should have. They had full stomachs and empty nutritional reserves simultaneously. Preparation monotony destroys morale faster than hunger. Eating the same rice and beans twice daily for weeks breaks psychological resilience. Food isn't just fuel during crisis. It's comfort, routine, and psychological anchor. When every meal tastes identical, you develop food fatigue where eating becomes a chore rather than relief. Children refuse to eat. Adults force themselves through meals. Calorie intake drops despite available food. Storage vulnerabilities multiply with single-source strategies. A moisture intrusion event, pest infestation, or contamination incident affects your entire food supply because it's all the same category. When one family's basement flooded in Tennessee, they lost 400 pounds of rice and beans in a single event. Their entire food security evaporated because they'd stored all eggs in one basket. The opportunity cost is massive. Money spent on bulk staples could have purchased diverse canned goods, dried fruits, nuts, seeds, and preserved vegetables, providing complete nutrition in ready-to-eat formats. You chose cheapest calories over actual nutritional security. But single-source food storage looks rational compared to the next one. Number 2, defensive firearms. This one dominates prepper culture as the ultimate security solution. Families invest thousands in weapons and ammunition, convinced they're ensuring safety. What they've actually done is selected the most escalation-prone option while neglecting the community relationships and conflict de-escalation skills that actually provide security during extended crises. The tactical reality differs from fantasies. You cannot maintain armed perimeter watch 24 hours daily. You need sleep. Your family needs rest. Exhaustion accumulates, creating the exact conditions where you make fatal mistakes. During the LA riots, Korean shop owners discovered that armed defense required rotating teams of 8 to 10 people minimum. Solo families attempting armed defense lasted hours before exhaustion forced them to abandon positions or make dangerous errors. The psychological burden of potential lethal force decisions breaks people before physical threats materialize. Living with weapons, condition yellow alert status constantly elevates cortisol, disrupts sleep, damages decision-making, and creates hypervigilance that reads threats into neutral situations. You become dangerous to yourself and family through chronic stress before external threats appear. Real security during extended crises comes from community integration, not individual defensive capability. The families who thrived during Hurricane Katrina, Texas freeze, and California wildfires were those embedded in strong neighborhood networks with established trust relationships. Shared security watches, pooled resources, and collective decision-making provided safety no individual family could achieve alone. The skills you should develop instead: conflict de-escalation, negotiation, community organizing, resource sharing protocols, and collective security planning. These skills prevent violence rather than responding to it, creating stability before threats materialize. Firearms have legitimate roles in rural security and wildlife protection, but suburban and urban preppers who prioritize weapons over community relationships have selected the least effective security strategy while creating the most legal and social liability. Number 1, fortified home. Hardening. Security bars on windows, reinforced door frames, heavy-duty locks, steel security doors. Families spend thousands hardening their homes against forced entry, creating fortresses that will protect them during social breakdown. What they've built is a trap that eliminates escape routes during the fires, floods, and structural emergencies that kill more people during disasters than violence. Every security upgrade that prevents someone from entering also prevents you from exiting rapidly. That's not theory. During structure fires, the leading cause of death is delayed escape. Window bars that stop intruders also stop you from reaching fire escapes. Reinforced doors that resist forced entry, also resist your panicked attempts to leave when smoke fills rooms in darkness. Rebecca Torres in Phoenix learned this during a kitchen fire that spread faster than expected. Her security bars required keys she couldn't locate in smoke and darkness. Firefighters cut through her window bars with specialized tools while her family huddled in a back bedroom. Without firefighter intervention, the bars she installed for security would have killed them. The fire safety trade-off is mathematically brutal. During disasters, structure fires increase dramatically due to improvised heating, cooking, and lighting. Candles tip over. Propane leaks ignite. Electrical shorts smolder in walls. Your statistical fire risk during extended emergencies is orders of magnitude higher than your home invasion risk. You've hardened against the less likely threat while increasing vulnerability to the more probable one. Flood scenarios eliminate ground floor exits. If your security modifications blocked upper floor windows, you're trapped in a rising water situation with no roof access. During Hurricane Harvey, multiple families had to be rescued from attics because their security bars prevented window escape when ground floors flooded. Security through entrapment isn't security. It's creating new vulnerabilities while addressing old ones. Real shelter security balances controlled entry with guaranteed exit, ensuring you can defend or flee as situations demand. Now that you understand which popular survival items create more problems than they solve, let's talk about the two categories that deliver genuine crisis capability without dependency traps, maintenance burdens, or dangerous trade-offs. Item 1. Quality water filtration and purification systems. Water security isn't about storage volume. It's about procurement capability from any source. A quality portable water filter combined with chemical purification backup provides unlimited water access from streams, ponds, rainwater, and even questionable municipal supplies during contamination events. The Sawyer Mini or LifeStraw style filters remove 99.99% of bacteria and protozoa through hollow fiber membrane technology. These devices weigh 2 ounces, require no power, need no consumable filters, and process hundreds of thousands of gallons before requiring replacement. One $40 filter provides your entire family safe water access for years. The procurement flexibility transforms your situation. Instead of rationing 55 gallons stored in your basement, you have access to the creek behind your property, the retention pond 3 blocks away, the swimming pool next door, and rainwater from your gutters. Every water source becomes viable. Your security expands from days of storage to unlimited procurement. The backup layer matters critically. Chemical purification tablets, household bleach, or iodine solutions provide secondary treatment when filters clog or damage occurs. These chemicals are shelf-stable for years, weigh nothing, and cost pennies per gallon of treated water. You've created redundant systems where single-point failure cannot compromise your water security. The knowledge component multiplies effectiveness. Learning to identify water sources, understanding sedimentation and pre-filtration, knowing contact times for chemical treatments, and practicing procurement in non-crisis conditions means you can adapt to any scenario. You're not dependent on specific equipment functioning perfectly. You understand principles and can improvise solutions. The community value cannot be overstated. During extended crises, water procurement capability makes you valuable to neighbors and creates cooperative relationships. You can help elderly neighbors, families with children, and anyone who prepared storage but not procurement. You become a community asset rather than isolated consumer. Real water security means you're never more than a walk away from safe water, regardless of circumstances. That's the definition of genuine preparedness. Item 2. Comprehensive medical and first aid supplies. Medical capability separates survival from crisis mortality more than any other factor. When emergency services are overwhelmed or unreachable, your ability to manage injuries, illnesses, and chronic conditions determines who lives and dies. Quality medical supplies backed by training represent the highest value preparedness investment possible. Start with comprehensive first aid beyond basic bandages. Combat gauze, Israeli bandages, tourniquets, chest seals, and blood clotting agents manage traumatic injuries that kill within minutes during disasters. Accidents spike when people use unfamiliar tools, cook with improvised methods, and navigate damaged environments. These supplies give you critical minutes to control bleeding that would otherwise be fatal. The chronic medication supply is essential for anyone managing ongoing conditions. A 90-day supply of prescription medications provides buffer against pharmacy closures and supply disruptions. Work with your physician to establish emergency prescriptions that you rotate through normal use. This isn't hoarding. It's maintaining therapeutic buffer for conditions that become life-threatening without management. Wound care supplies prevent the infections that kill more people than the original injuries. Antibiotic ointments, proper dressings, medical tape, and irrigation supplies keep wounds clean during the extended periods when professional care isn't accessible. During the Syrian crisis, infection killed more wounded people than trauma because basic wound management wasn't available. Dental emergency supplies address the agonizing toothaches and dental damage that happen during disasters. Temporary filling material, dental tools, and pain management supplies let you stabilize dental emergencies until dentists become available. Untreated dental infections can spread to bloodstream and brain, creating life-threatening situations from toothaches. Over-the-counter medication depth provides broader capability than people realize. Pain relievers, antihistamines, antidiarrheals, electrolyte solutions, and antibiotic ointments manage 90% of common medical issues. Stock generic versions in bulk. They're pharmacologically identical to name brands at fraction of cost. So there you have it. 7 survival items to avoid and 2 that actually make the difference when disaster strikes. Don't waste money on gear that traps you in false security. Focus on what truly protects your family. If this breakdown helped, hit that subscribe button right now, because the next video will dive even deeper into the survival strategies that really work.